love a risky campaign, honey. When you choose to run a shocking, attention-grabbing campaign, your company is taking a huge risk, and I love risk takers. But you've got to make sure that you don't fall into the what the category. So in this video, I'm gonna give you a few tips on how you can avoid the WTF category and blow it out of the water. When I think of risky campaigns, I automatically think of last year's Super Bowl and Nationwide's boy ad. Now, if you don't remember, it's this heartbreaking commercial about a boy who tells you all the things he's never gonna do in life. He's never gonna fly, he's never gonna become president, he's never gonna play football. I mean, all these things that we take for granted in life. And then we find out at the end the reason he's never gonna do any of that is because he's dead. He's dead. Death, children, same campaign. And they go a step further, and at the end, they show you how he died. This campaign was obviously meant to raise awareness for household deaths of children. There's a rise in accidents in the household and the death toll of children. Overwhelmingly, it was ill-received. You do have the people that thought it was great, and those are typically the marketers who are like, well, there's 1,000 people that are going to that website. But overwhelmingly, it left a bad taste in people's mouth. People were offended, people were worse, triggered. Parents who had lost children were devastated. It was just a mess. So here are a few things that I think that they could have done to avoid the situation, and you can learn in your next risky campaign. First, know your audience really, really well. Now, I know that their target audience obviously were parents, but I don't think they thought it all the way through, or they didn't segment their audience properly enough. So, overwhelmingly, parents are, in 2015, helicopter parents. They don't leave their children alone for a minute, let alone 5 minutes in the bathtub. They're already thinking of all the things that can go wrong before the child is even out of their womb. Let me tell you, I understand completely. And so you don't have to tell them about the risks in the home. They already know. They're not risk takers. They live in fear. So all you're doing is giving them a gut-wrenching feeling in their stomach before they go to bed. And that's all they can think about. And then they're pissed. They're mad at you. You just ruined their night. That leads me to context, which is number 2. Had they aired this particular campaign at a different night, at a different time, it may have been more well received. I guess it did a little bit better than other concepts and focus groups. So that gives me hope that maybe it would have done a little bit better on like a Tuesday night at 9 o'clock after you put the kids down, you're enjoying a nice glass of wine. Not right in the middle of the Super Bowl when you've had 4 Bud Lights and you just got done eating pizza rolls and you're having like the best time of your life with all your friends and all your kids running around. It just wasn't the right time. And it would have been cheaper that way instead of paying, I don't even want to know how much they paid for that Super Bowl spot. So it's also context. Another thing, they used what I like to call disruptive language, which was it got your attention, now you're thinking, but they didn't reframe it. They just got your attention, didn't really elaborate on the safety, how to keep your kids safe. It's like, okay, here's this website, and then left it up to you to do that. When you're gonna use disruptive language, you need to reframe it immediately. Literally, next sentence. Now, if you're gonna use a risky campaign and disruptive language, you need to make sure that you have a team in place. Not to address the conversation next week, not tomorrow, not an hour after it launches, that moment that it launches. Because if somebody is offended or triggered and they start a conversation, you need to be there, a part of the conversation. That was the whole point. You wanted to start a conversation. Well, guess what? They're talking about it without you. The whole point of your campaign was to start a conversation, and the conversation is happening without you. That is devastating to a brand. You need to be there to be able to explain things, add some context. What I recommend is having a social media team in place as soon as that sucker launches and having a stream of mentions, ats, hashtags to be able to meet it head on and face it head on that moment in real time. I feel like this is probably common sense, but so many people don't do this, and they do these big, beautiful campaigns with all this great copywriting and all these great images, and they start a conversation and then they're nowhere near the conversation, and the conversation happens without them, and typically sometimes it gets hijacked by another company who comes in and spins it, reframes it, and takes it and makes it their own, and they benefit from it. So you've got to make sure you've got a long-term goal and a long-term plan in place if you're gonna use this type of risky campaign. All in all, I love risk takers. I am one, I live and breathe for them. But you've got to make sure that if you're gonna do a risky campaign like this, that with all that heart and all of that intention, there's a lot of thought and strategy to make sure that message is received as positively as possible. So if you enjoyed these marketing tips, I am here every single week. I changed my format up a little bit. This was like a serious video, so I didn't do my typical snappy hour, but every week I do a marketing video, lifestyle branding video with some tips and tricks for you. And if you have any questions or you've seen like a really awful campaign, I'd love to see it. So leave it in the comments below. You can also find me at freddarlingstudio.com, Facebook, facebook.com/freddarlingstudio. I will see you next week.